At first, nothing looked different. Airports appeared quiet on satellite images.
Runways were empty lines of concrete. The sky seemed wide and ordinary. Then, in less than a night, the airspace began to thicken. Flight corridors that usually breathe slowly suddenly filled up. The invisible traffic above the region compressed, tightened, and accelerated. What normally unfolds over weeks was compressed into hours. This is not what preparation looks like. This is what it looks like when preparation is being wrapped up, when the system shifts from getting ready to being ready to move. Within a single day, the United States funneled more than 50 combat aircraft into the Middle East air corridor. This is not theater. This is not posture. This is the moment when the arm draws back before the blow. Moves like this are not meant to be seen as messages. They are meant to be felt as capability. Because once assets are physically in place, the realm of maybe shrinks. Options stop being theoretical and begin to exist on the map. At a distance, it can be framed as routine redeployment. But the US military does not stack airframes like this without purpose. Every fighter that takes off drags an ecosystem behind it. Fuel tankers stretch the reach of the jets. Maintenance crews create sustainability. Munitions stockpiles lock in the ability to strike repeatedly. Forward bases transform from quiet outposts into operational nodes. So when dozens of advanced aircraft converge on a single corridor in such a short window, the decision point has already moved past if. It has entered the territory of in case. And these are not interchangeable platforms. F-16SUs form the backbone of persistent presence. They hold airspace, patrol-wide arcs, and sustain operational tempo with high sortie rates. They are the aircraft that keep the sky busy and controlled. F-22s serve a different function. They do not dominate by presence. They dominate by absence. They slip through blind sensors, carve out the first layer of darkness. They are designed to create the initial gap in the opponent's perception. F-35s operate as something else entirely. They are not just shooters. They are flying sensor nodes. They collect, fuse, and distribute data across the battlespace. When they strike, they do not act alone. They open the scene for every other platform connected to the network. When these three aircraft families arrive together, what forms is not a trial of strength. It is the infrastructure of air control. It is the architecture required to seal the sky. The raw number matters less than the timing. 50 aircraft do not start a war, but 50 aircraft do two strategic things simultaneously. First, they create the base layer for a follow-on wave. This is not the main body, this is the skeleton that allows the body to move later. Second, they signal that this is no longer symbolic movement. It tells the other side that what is being built in the air is not hypothetical capacity. It is capacity that can be activated. This rhythm is familiar. The US has played this sequence before. In the months leading up to 1991, air assets were introduced gradually, framed as routine. Only later did the full shape of Desert Storm become visible. In 2003, the pattern repeated. First came the fighters, then the tankers, then the logistical scaffolding that turned presence into permanence. The doctrine underneath is simple. Diplomacy without force behind it speaks quietly. Negotiations without a functioning military machine in the background carry less weight. Talks sound different when they are backed by hardware that is already in motion. The timing of this current buildup is not accidental. As aircraft were being pushed forward, indirect nuclear negotiations with Iran were taking place. One channel speaks the language of dialogue, the other constructs the language of leverage. This is not contradiction. This is how pressure is layered. One hand offers a table, the other builds the capacity to flip it, and the air picture is only one layer. At sea, the United States is positioning carrier strike groups toward the same theater. USS Abraham Lincoln is already operating in the Arabian Sea. USS Gerald R. Ford has shifted course from the Atlantic side. A carrier is not a ship. It is a mobile airbase. It carries its own radar web, its own strike wing, its own defensive envelope. Two carriers mean persistent air operations, day and night. Combined with land-based squadrons, this creates overlapping coverage. The region begins to look less like open space and more like a ceiling. Even the route these aircraft took tells a story. F-22s staging through the United Kingdom, supported by KC-46 and KC-135 tankers, show that the logistical spine runs far beyond the middle. East, Europe becomes part of the operational bridge. This is not a short-breath deployment. It is the construction of tempo across a wide arc of geography. And the encirclement is not only aerial or naval, it extends into trade routes and financial arteries. India's seizure of Iranian-linked oil tankers is not a footnote. On the surface, it looks like a port enforcement action. In practice, it is pressure applied to circulation. This is how pressure travels in the maritime domain. Not through explosions, but through friction. Not by destroying infrastructure, but by slowing it. Iran's leverage does not lie in conventional firepower. It lies in shadow networks that move energy, money, and material through gray channels. Tankers change flags, routes shift, paperwork mutates. These flows keep resources moving to Iran and to its regional partners. When those flows are interrupted, the battlefield feels it indirectly. No fuel means no movement. No movement means plans remain trapped on maps. India is not a country that casually disrupts this gray economy. Its energy dependence and diplomatic balancing usually keep it on the margins of enforcement. For New Delhi to move directly against these vessels indicates that pressure is now diffused. It is no longer centralized in Washington. It is spreading outward, with each actor calculating its own risk and benefit. When the air picture, the naval picture, and the trade picture are layered together, a pattern emerges. In the sky, advanced fighters fill the corridor. At sea, carrier groups take position. In commerce, tankers are halted. Individually, none of this equals war. Together, it forms constriction. Military pressure without economic backing is hollow. Economic pressure without military credibility is dismissed. The current phase activates both at once. This kind of tightening does not announce itself with shockwaves. It begins with delays. Insurance premiums rise, shipping schedules stretch, cargo waits in ports. One disruption cascades into another. A tanker stopped today becomes a refinery running late tomorrow. A refinery delayed today becomes a fuel shortage at the front next week. This is attrition without smoke. It is not dramatic, but it is suffocating. The central variable is Iran's response. Under this kind of layered pressure, states typically choose between two paths. They either push flows deeper into the shadows, accepting higher risk, or they seek leverage elsewhere in the system. Iran chose the second, not on the front line, at the world's narrowest door. The announcement of temporary closures in the Strait of Hormuz, justified by live fire drills and maritime safety, is not a training notice. It is a reminder. Hormuz is Iran's loudest instrument. Roughly a fifth of global oil flows through that channel. Even a short disruption sends ripples through markets, insurance, and supply chains. The drills conducted by the Revolutionary Guard in the Strait, the Persian Gulf, and the Gulf of Oman are less about combat readiness and more about signaling. Missiles into the sea, coastal batteries lighting up, shipping lanes paused. This is not "the door is closed." This is "the hand is on the handle." And the timing mirrors the negotiations, talks at the table, pressure at the choke point. Hormuz matters not only because of what passes through it, but because of who feels it. A strike on a base affects one side. A disruption in Hormuz unsettles many. Energy traders recalibrate. Insurers rewrite premiums. Shipping companies redraw routes. The cost of pressure is distributed outward. On the opposite side, U.S. naval exercises are framed as defensive posture. Operationally, they rehearse offensive coordination. Carrier groups train for target acquisition, air-sea integration, and sustained tempo. These drills intensify when tolerance for error decreases. Because in real operations, mistakes are not corrected, they are paid for. The language from Tehran reflects the same hardening. Statements about sinking carriers are not battle plans. They are deterrence theater. No serious analyst believes Iran can dismantle a carrier group at scale. Carriers are not lone hulls. They are wrapped in layered air defense, submarines, early warning, and escort screens. The value of such statements lies not in feasibility, but in psychology. They aim beyond the U.S. military and toward the political audience. They communicate that escalation carries shared cost. Both sides are now speaking the same grammar. If I strike, you will feel it. If you strike, I will find a way to make it hurt. This symmetry is dangerous, not because it guarantees conflict, but because it compresses margins for error. Crowded airspace, narrow sea lanes, dense radar environments, one misread maneuver can spiral, a radar lock misinterpreted, a warning shot misjudged, a routine drill mistaken for a probe. Crises rarely begin with intent. They begin with miscalculation. At this stage, neither side has crossed the line, but both are walking closer to it. Each step forward reduces the space available for stepping back. The next phase will not be decided only by aircraft movements or naval drills. It will be shaped by whether the pressure architecture continues to tighten or whether space is left for de-escalation to breathe. The field is being prepared. The table is still standing. Which one becomes dominant will determine what comes next. That is the critical question.